Ladies and gentlemen, can everyone hear me? Thank you to the welcoming party that we have outside. They've been very welcoming. My name is Shung Chang. I'm the president of One Nation in Western Australia. We'll get Kings kicked off by having the national anthem. Would everyone please stand up?
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains and let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please thank Stacey again? Stacey performs, as some of you might know, for the Wildcats shows. She does the national anthem there as well. And she's also written her own album on disabilities. So if anyone wants Stacey to perform at their event, she's available. Just say, talk to her. Okay, thanks, Stacey. Okay, this is the No to the Voice event. And you wouldn't believe this, but there are many, many groups that are actually No to the Voice, but you won't hear about it. This is the place you're going to hear about it. I can name a few of the organizations. There's the Australian Jewish Association, the largest Jewish group, who's also saying no. We've got CNI, the Council of National Interests. Graham Wishart, I saw him earlier, also saying no, but you wouldn't know it. The only people that are getting a voice are the people saying yes, but not tonight. You're going to hear from two very good speakers. Before we get Pauline to come out, I'll introduce you to Rod Cadies. He's going to talk about the Heritage Act and its impact, and its massive, massive impacts. It's going to wipe out pretty much agriculture. Rod has extensive experience in the agri region. He lives on a heritage-listed property, rural property, and he was a former president of One Nation in Western Australia. Rod.
Okay, good evening. Thanks for having me along here to have a chat to you guys tonight. It's great to see so many people here. It's often the media don't give us any sort of coverage, so it's quite hard to get the message out there when things are going on with One Nation. So yeah, it's just really good to see the room full tonight. Thank you. Now, I'm just going to read off a bit of notes tonight. I've been pretty busy at work, and it's been, obviously, this is, as people know, come up quite quickly with the visit, and I was asked to speak. So if I refer to my notes a bit, I apologise tonight. So anyway, basically, in my opinion, the whole voice debate has turned into a complete mess with the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Act not far behind it. When Mark McGowan became Premier of this state, he said his priority was transparency in government, and it would be gold standard. We've all seen what happened there. However, what has followed is a series of astounding attempts to conceal and deflect information from the public eye like never before seen in our state's history. The rollout of the new Aboriginal cultural heritage regulations is a prime example of their lack of consultation, secrecy and the chaos it can cause. We've already seen numerous issues arise around the regulations, like the cancellation of the regenerative tree planting at the river and the conflict between elders at the opening of a freeway. I'm sure plenty of you have seen that, including one of the gentlemen saying this is sort of my land too, and you know, and that comes up in these arguments about with what we say, that it's all of our land and we all should love it. So there was sort of a conflict there that made sense to all of us, I think. Then you have Minister Tony Booty claiming everything is going smoothly with the heritage laws. However, the fact is many West Australians are clearly distressed about the new regulations, including myself. Now, I live on a beautiful 14-acre property in the Swan Valley, which is wine country, full of vineyards, equestrian and horticulture, and I know many people like myself are concerned about the implications these new regulations will have. We paid a premium to live where we do, and now to look up and find our land is identified as land of cultural significance, that of green bullfrog dreaming, is alarming. I see a major issue here too. With artefacts, burial grounds and drawings on rocks, you can physically see them. You understand, you know, we need to preserve the heritage of, you know, the culture and there's no problem with that. However, anyone can come along claiming a spiritual connection and a story, and there's no real way we can validate the truth and significance of that. It's only on hearsay or stories told, and we've seen, you know, and I'm not saying accusing people of corruption, but what I'm saying is it's open to all sorts of things of looking for extra money or corruption, and anything could be said, oh, this was a spiritual ground for me, or this was something, but we have no way of actually identifying or proving that. So that is a real concern for many of the people I know that have spoken to me, that they ask me and I say, well, I really don't know how that will be proven or how that will work. So basically the Heritage Act, it's the system that's been introduced is a 3-tier system, and for me raises concerns about the reasonableness of the rates imposed on landowners. While Tier 1 activities might not require a permit, landowners are still obligated to take precautions to avoid or minimise harm. That sounds like a bit of a grey area to me because, you know, who determines whether you took enough precautions, or, you know, it's a really hard one to work out, did you do enough? However, any maintenance or demolition work that surpasses certain thresholds, such as removing over 4 kilograms of material, disturbing more than 10 square metres of ground, or excavating beyond 50 centimetres. I mean, most our fence posts are, well, you know, are below that. So even fence posts, drains, anything, 50 centimetres isn't much. So that isn't concern. And then they'll talk about like for fencing, but there's no real direction on, okay, if you've got a wire fence, picket wire fence, and you want to put in a timber fence, is that like for like, or, you know, it's so blurry. And they really can't answer a lot of them questions. The fees associated with these permits are a cause for concern. For instance, under the fee guidelines, hiring one senior Aboriginal consultant who is recognised in their community as having elevated levels of knowledge, expertise, skills and authority in relation to Aboriginal cultural heritage can cost up to $160 per hour or $1,200 per day. Notice I said cost up to. Again, a grey area. Meanwhile, a LAC's chief executive can charge up to $280 per hour, and other expert service providers can demand up to $300 per hour. This pricing structure will undoubtedly present significant financial burdens for landowners seeking to comply with new regulations. as I do, as many landowners, we love our land, we want to look after our land, we want to protect heritage, we want to do the right thing and follow regulations. But these regulations have been rushed through. It's unorganised. You know, they introduced it and had it going on 1st of July, but their departments aren't even up and running properly. They can't give you answers because they don't know. In addition to that, the potential addition of a 20% loading in remote areas and the inclusion of costs for travel, accommodation and meals in the fee structure further exasperate the financial strain imposed on landowners seeking to engage with the lot. Considering these rates, it becomes evident that the current fee system for permit applications is far from reasonable in my view. Now, you have Roger Cook asserting that our Aboriginal cultural heritage laws do the same thing as the voice. But what is that? Cause utter chaos, division and financial burden? Who would know? We remain uncertain about the truth behind his statement because the replacement Premier refuses to disclose the advice he and his predecessor received about the voice. I'm guessing what I just mentioned is part of the reason for the huge turnaround in the polls. For anyone that's read the paper or seen the latest polls, it's been a big backflip. Labor have just completely dived, and the Conservative parties like One Nation and Liberals and Nationals have gained ground, a lot of ground, a very lot of ground. I was going to read out the statistics because they're pretty damning, they're pretty shocking, but I'll read one. You know, back at election time, it was like a 70 Labor, 30 Liberal, and that's dropped down to 56 Liberal, 40 something Labor. So you can see it's a massive. And One Nation, they put others because media don't really like to give One Nation a lot of attention. We all know that, and they put us down as others, but it's still in orange print. We've increased about 9% up to 15%, which is a huge gain. And there's a reason for that. I'm sure most of the people that are here now know, the people that have done all the fighting in this country for many years, they aren't the Liberals, they aren't the Nationals, they aren't the Greens, and they certainly aren't Labor. It's One Nation. Pauline Hanson's One Nation. It's been Pauline Hanson, who will come to speak soon, that has done all the work that people don't get to see. That, you know, I've had debates lately on social media where people are telling me, oh, Pauline Hanson's done nothing for this country. She just, you know, it's just a party, blah, blah, blah. She's done more work than any politician that I know. And I've worked in politics, in Parliament for 4 years in WA, so I haven't had the pleasure of working with Pauline. However, I see the work that goes in behind the scenes in what One Nation does. You know, Liberals and Nationals and them sort of parties will speak words in the public to make it sound like they're doing great things and, you know, but the truth is when you see them in Parliament, what are they voting for? They vote the opposite from what they're actually promoting to you out in the public. You only have to look at the voice. You look at the Senate votes and that referendum went through, they voted on it, yet I've seen them on social media saying how bad it was. How does that work? But we know if we can get enough people that will stick with One Nation and actually fight, volunteer, we can, I don't know what the wording I should use, but we can take over the country so that we can bring the country back to a point where every Australian can feel like we're equal. They talk about the voice wanting to, you know, give a voice to the Indigenous. I think there's a lot of voice out there, but the voice that is there is a minority voice that has never truly cared about the Indigenous people. Pauline Hanson cares about Indigenous people. I've seen her sit at meals. A quick story, because I know I don't want to waste too much of the night, but I remember sitting at a restaurant in Perth one night. This Aboriginal man come running up, banging on the window. Our steaks had just been served. He was from Kalgoorlie, and so he come in, and then Pauline let him sit down. Our steaks went cold. She would refuse to eat a meal because she wanted to hear what he had to say. Encouraged him. He had a lot of great things to say. There's no racism at all in Pauline Hanson or the One Nation Party. That's just a portrayal of what media and the Liberals and the people that know the real danger to this political sphere of, really changing things to how they should be. The real danger is one nation. The reason them people are out there protesting now, they're not protesting Liberals, Nationals or any of them parties. It's not because they really believe we're racist. It's because they know that we're changing things to make it equal and great for everybody in this country. I care about the heritage, but I also care about the Constitution. The Constitution of this country is so important and we need to stick by it and pretty much that's about what I've got to say. I don't want to talk too much and it was just a quick word. There's a lot more I could talk about the Cultural Heritage Act, but if you want to, I have a Facebook page, there's One Nation pages. It's just Rod Caddies, you can see it on there. And if you want to know more about the Act or any more information about what One Nation actually does, I can give you all that. I know the 4 years I served as an electorate officer and chief of staff, working behind the scenes, the amount of effort we put in, the amount of changes we made to legislation that would have been awful legislation in this state, I seen it. But media will never tell you that One Nation have been a big contributor to making sure that them amendments happen. And I could list them all off, but I won't, because I don't want to have everyone listening to that tonight, because we've got Pauline, the main person who we need to listen to tonight to speak. So thanks for listening to me tonight anyway, and I appreciate you being here. Just remember, One Nation will be fighting hard for you leading up to the next election.
Thanks, Rod. And you've heard about how farming, agriculture going to be decimated through this Heritage Act. So thanks so much, Rod, for just a word about the function tonight. This is actually our second function on the Note to Voice. We had a function in November last year where Pauline was the main speaker, and it was a sellout. 110 was the capacity at Topolini's. So that's why we've got a bigger venue. We've got double the number of people from the previous event, but the food is still by Topolini's. So we brought Topolini's to you here. I was talking about the decimation of agriculture. Mark McGowan, when he was the Premier, he was into the bureaucratic purging of political parties. He learned it from Mao, he learned it from Stalin. We were getting purged. So thanks to all of you that filled in an FD15 form, we're on track to getting our re-registration in Western Australia. So thank you everyone for that. To introduce Pauline, I'm going to hand over to someone who is the genius behind the cartoon series. All of you like that? Yes. Come on, James. Mr. James Ashby.
Thank you very much. It's been a fun journey, actually. We came up with that cartoon series last year. Second series now. We didn't think we'd bring it back. But it's surprising how many places we go throughout the country, and people after that first series were just simply saying, when are you bringing the cartoon series back? So thank you to everyone who's bought the rum, because at the end of the day, that's what's funded it. So if you haven't bought the rum and you love the cartoons, that's what will keep it going. So thank you for that. Can I also thank tonight's venue, because as Shung has said, it's hard to find venues, particularly on a sensitive subject like the Voice to Parliament. Anyone who objects to it, you often find the venues don't want to host an event like this. So put your hands together for the venue here at Subiaco. Yeah. And can I say that we've just come from Melbourne, and I thought Melbourne was the lefty capital, but are you trying to take over Melbourne with this act this afternoon? Because I was shocked to see that when we came today. But look, it adds to the hype, and look, that's the only reason the media here is because of the protesters, not because of what you or Pauline have to say. So what I will say, What's really frustrating is that over here in Western Australia, been pointed out somewhat by Rod, the National Party here support the voice to Parliament. It surprises me because on a federal level, they say they don't. But here, the states are divided. So Nationals support the voice. Many Liberals on a state level support the voice. The Liberals in South Australia just passed legislation to bring in their own state voice. But it won't come into effect until December because they don't want you to see before this vote what it really does. And I hate to say it, but Western Australia has really proven to the country, I think, through these heritage laws, how bad this voice to Parliament is truly going to be. You're just giving us a taste of something that's going to be extraordinarily powerful throughout the country. So I hate to see the pain you're going through, but ultimately it's for the rest of the country to recognise the pain we're all going to go through soon. Tasmanian Liberals support the voice to Parliament. It's only the majority of federal Liberals that don't. Well, they say they don't. So it's events like this that are important. How many of you are tired of the welcome to countries? Does anyone like them? Do you think they overuse them? Would you mind if it just happened once every couple of months? Yeah. But it just seems like everywhere you go, there's another welcome to country. And the problem is, most events you go to, first speaker will say it, second speaker will say it, third speaker will say it. It's like, oh, goodness. And then to make matters worse, when you jump on a plane like we often do, every time you land, and in Queensland we do what they call the milk run. I don't know whether you've got it here, but you land at every town that's sort of an hour away from each other and you get another welcome to country. It's like, man, I'm going to go deaf over this. Anyway, I won't carry on. You've come here to listen to a lady I've had the pleasure of working with for over 8 years now. I started working with Pauline prior to her election in 2015. Rod's 100% right. I've never seen anything racist, sexist, misogynistic, nothing that those people were screaming about. Anti-trans, anti-gay, nothing like that. She's not like that. She'll have a say on things, but it's not how they portray it. And we have been into Aboriginal communities. We've been into Doomadgee. We've been into the Cape. And every time, welcomed with open arms. And those conversations are one-on-one every single time where we sit down and we give people a hearing. We've been to Uluru. We're invited there by elders. Elders who call the Uluru Statement a rag. They don't believe in this. They call it a dirty rag. And they're tired of, their words, not mine, bitumen blacks coming and telling them what to do, or calling these Canberra Aboriginals cattle with no brand. That's their words, not mine. They're pretty nasty sort of statements when you think about it, coming from your own mob. But that's what the people of Uluru, some of the elders, that's Paddy Uluru's granddaughter, Jimpana, says about the voice, and others within her mob, other elders. So can I please welcome tonight's keynote speaker, Senator for Queensland, Pauline Hanson.
Thank you. Wow. Hello. What a warm welcome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Well, I should come over here more often, shouldn't I? Keep telling me to. Yeah, it's such a long way. But it's an honour to be here. Thank you very, very much for the warm welcome. After I listened to the rat bags as I came in the back way, because I wasn't going to give them the pleasure. But anyway, for those people who had to walk through it, thank you. I take my hat off to you that you actually did come here. And it takes me back to the memories of years ago in 1996, 97, 98, when I did the functions, I don't know if you came to one of my functions here in Perth, 3,000 people, protesters were outside, all the rat bags, throwing the eggs and tomatoes. And I've got to tell you this. I've had some come up to me and they said, I owe you an apology. And I said, oh, really? What for? I was one of those protesters. I've actually grown up. Now I understand what you were talking about. And now I vote for you. So there's hope. There's hope if they grow up and they do their research and they know what they are actually on about. And a lot of these don't. And listening to them, Aboriginal land always will be, always Aboriginal land. No, it isn't. It's Australia's land. It is the people of this nation. It is their land. It's our land while we are here. We can't take it with us. We can't do anything with the land. It's about enjoying what it gives us and what it means to us. That even if you were born here, even those people who weren't born here, people who've migrated here to this nation, it belongs to everyone to enjoy it and what it offers us as a nation of Australians. And that's where they don't understand. Well, you certainly are getting it tougher here in WA, aren't you? What's this? The Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Act? Boy, you've got a bunch of rat bags over here. I thought they were all in Canberra with your politicians. My God, they're really whacking you with all this. You've got the voice, now you've got this on top of it. And especially if you own land here, that you've got to get permission of 50 centimetres under the ground. Well, anyway, I can tell you, my reaction and what I've seen what happened in Parliament with a lot of these politicians, you make up your own mind. They'll be out on the stage, they'll tell you what you want to hear, we're going to do this for you, and they get on the floor of Parliament and the weak, gutless wonders with no backbone actually vote differently on the floor of Parliament. I am absolutely, truly sick and tired of them. And, I am a Conservative. I was with the Liberal Party until John Howard got a shock that I stood up and on the same issue, equality for all Australians. I have always said that and I've stood by it. But Howard was frightened of losing the election because he had a Liberal candidate that they were calling a racist. So they disendorsed me. It came from John Howard. And I'll tell you this little story. It was when I ran into Peter Costello at the airport about 3 years ago now. I said, how are you going, Peter? He said, oh, good, thanks, Pauline. And I said, we were doing very well in the polls, won seats. And I said, I bet you're sorry you got rid of me now. And he said, actually, I was with John Howard at the dinner that night. And he said, your name came up. And he said, yeah, I was thinking to myself, who's Pauline Hanson? I said, well, you know who I am now. And he said, yeah, it was John Howard. And I was told by the president of the Liberal Party at that time it came from John Howard, I had to go. But I stood my ground. I won the seat of Oxley with the biggest swing in the nation, 22%. And they got a hell of a bloody shock. Through determination, standing up for what you truly believe in. And I have not swayed or changed whatsoever. And I believe in morals, principles, and being a representative for the people. Because I know that when I'm finished in politics, I won't regret my decisions because I did them based on what was right, what was good for the country and for the people. And I will not sell my soul for a vote. And I stand by what I believe in. Well, tonight you've come to hear about The Voice. What you haven't heard. How many of you have come here still undecided on which way you may vote with us and just want to get an idea? One gentleman's honest. Well, I hope I can convince you, mate. If not, well, I don't know. Maybe these other people might in their way of thinking, but they may all be yes voters. We don't know. But anyway, the fact is that you've come to hear what has to be said. This will be the most divisive piece of legislation if it gets up in a referendum to change our constitution. Have no doubt about it. It is the biggest decision this country will make and its people, even unlike that of the Federation of our constitution when it's drafted at that time. Right from the very beginning, when I heard about this, I looked at it, I understood it, and I've actually, since I got into politics, I've studied the Constitution. I have an understanding of it, which I never did beforehand, like many Australians, I'll be honest. It's not a book you pick up and read on a regular basis, but in politics you have to. And it really concerned me. So anyway, I've actually had a good look at it, and as I said, it is the most divisive piece of legislation, if it gets up in the referendum, that will destroy and divide us as a nation. As I said to you right from the beginning, I have always called for equality for all Australians, regardless of race, colour, creed, whether you're born here or whether you actually migrated. I am Indigenous to this land. I was born here. This is my land. And I'm fed up with the division that is happening. We keep saying Albanese, our Prime Minister, if you didn't realise that, he keeps saying that we need this to close the gaps and we need to get over the hurt and pain, what's happened. Well, wasn't, giving the apology just to the stolen generation, wasn't it supposed to close the gaps? Wasn't the native title claims, wasn't that closing the gaps? Wasn't it, they said that's all we needed. We just wanted that apology. It's always been never enough, more and more and more. And the billions of dollars that has gone into it. At the moment, I'm doing an investigation to the Aboriginal industry, as I've called it for years, the Aboriginal gravy train. And this is where they've got on board and just keep taking the dollars. The money's not going where it's supposed to go, to these communities, which I've travelled through. I've seen the poverty in this. I've seen the dysfunction. I see the unemployment. I see the children on the streets of all hours because it's safer on the streets than what it is in their own homes. The domestic violence, the drug abuse, the sexual abuse of these children. And to listen to Linda Burney list all these problems in a speech at the National Press Club, she knows what the issues are. They know what the problems are. But we need a voice to tell us how to fix it. What a load of bloody rubbish. What they need is someone with the backbone to actually do the job. Because if you question it, you're called a racist. So why hasn't it been addressed? Why hasn't it changed? Why has it cost billions of dollars, over $30 billion a year? That's how much it costs. And then there's all the other programs. It's not about the money. It's got nothing to do with the money. And that's why people are jumping on board. And that's why Aboriginals, they don't know what is going on. They want change as well. The land that's given back in native title, did you know that it's approximately about 50% of Australia is under native title? 50%. There's another 10% to be determined, and it possibly will end up under native title. 80% of Aboriginals live in the cities and urban areas, only 20% in rural and remote areas. To build homes in these areas, remote areas, you're looking at $1 million plus. And then when they destroy the housing that's given to them, then it's costing us hundreds of thousands to repair. And they talk about services. To get services out there, we don't do it for ordinary Australians. Why are we keep fostering this, living in remote areas when there's no employment, there's no hope for the future generations coming through? It is stupid to keep heading down that same path. And that's where changes have to be made. And it really makes my heart, I feel so sorry for those kids to see them. And when we know that the sexual abuse that is going on, and yet no one does anything about it, because if you go to take those children away, you're abused again for for stolen generation. And that is the problem. So we know what is happening. When we spoke to Marcia Langdon, she's one who's part on this group. Anyway, we asked her, well, how much is it going to cost? Oh, we haven't put that in to determine that. There was no question, asked about it. No money is mentioned. And, of course, Anthony Albanese said it's not going to cost anything. You don't have 24 people elected that can't be paid for their travel, their accommodation, for their officers, for their staffing, for the electoral, for the legal advice that they're going to have to get. And they're talking about structuring some set up at Parliament House for them as well. It is going to be an ongoing cost. Let me explain to you in the Constitution. When we, the people, decide in the referendum, that means they're going to form a completely new chapter, chapter 129, under the Constitution. The wording may mean that, you agree to a voice. Okay, thank you. So when they give you the wording for it, which all sounds warm and cosy, that you're going to agree to have the voice, and it sounds great, we're going to give them a voice, and they can actually advise Parliament and do everything like this. But it's like any other section in the Constitution. It's like if you go to section 51, it's got the name, so the government can make legislation based on for the good government of the country and for the people. So it's basically only one word, but the government can go and make whatever legislation they want to, the same as the voice. Once you give them permission to add it to the Constitution, they can go and draft up whatever legislation they want to. Any future governments. And why they wanted the Constitution is that the next government or anyone else can't take it out. If it's legislation, any future governments can actually get rid of it. Once it's in the Constitution, we have got it. We're stuck with it. And they can draft up whatever legislation they want to. They can actually give them a remuneration. They can actually give them paying rent. Anything that they want, you can put in legislation because we, the people, have given them the authority to draft up what legislation. That's why Anthony Albanese and the Labor Party have not been truthful and honest with you to tell you what they intend to do with this. They have not been forthcoming. They are conceited and they are not truthful with the people and the impact it can have on us. Thomas Mayo has led to it. He's told you what they want and the control that they want, exactly as what the Western Australian government has done under this Cultural Act that they brought in here. The same as what they're wanting to do in Queensland with their treaty that the Labor Party wanting to bring in. It's to do with remuneration and paying them, the same as what they've done in South Australia, the same as what they're doing in Victoria. This is about dividing Australians. And whether you will have to pay remuneration on your own land, if you fly in a plane, you're going to have to pay them to fly through the air because they claim the airspace as well. There's no depth to the oceans or the waters. The government has given them land and sea rights. Did you know that? The coalition government gave them sea rights as well. It went on the Voices. They both agreed to it. And this is the coalition government. Neither side can be actually trusted. Neither side can be trusted. And that's why I've stood my ground. On principle, when I heard what was happening here, I thought, this is wrong. We are all Australians together. We should not be dividing this nation. But they sat back. How long did it take Dutton to come out and say something? Too long, because based on principle, the whole thing stinks and it's not right for the Australian people. And that's why I made my stance, as I have done with a lot of issues, because I don't wait and see which way the wind's blowing. I can smell the stench way off. And that's why I make my stance and I have my say. And the people will decide, for themselves. But common sense tells me what is right for this country and what is wrong. And it stunk to me from the beginning. And I can assure you that as we grow, and our party is growing, we are fortunate enough to win a seat in South Australia, and our member down there is the only one who stood up against both the major political parties, everyone. She was the only one that stood up against them in this treaty that they did in South Australia. The same is in Melbourne too. Our member there, she is absolutely fantastic as well. As my colleague Malcolm Roberts in the Senate in Canberra, that we stand up on principle. So here in Western Australia, we will be standing at the next state election. We will have candidates in every seat. We will give you the opportunity to vote for someone other than the two major political parties who keep leading you down to a path of destruction in this nation and leadership. Now, I've been working with Jacinta Price. I admire that woman. She is absolutely wonderful. And to hear what she has to say on these issues, she's truthful, she's honest, and I think she's done a fantastic job. But I put up a private members' bill on the floor of Parliament, and it was to define the definition of Aboriginality. So my bill went to how they define it under the native title, and that's done through the court system, that they have to have a connection to the land going back to 1788. So there's about 400 to 430,000 people registered on that. Do you know they denied me the right to even introduce my bill on the floor of Parliament? Both sides. Both sides. National Party, the Libs and the Labor. Denied me the right to introduce my bill, even to have it debated on the floor of Parliament. Then I put it up for an inquiry into it. Didn't even want that. They don't want debate on this. They don't want you, the people, to know what's going on. This is what I'm up against all the time on that floor of Parliament. Like I said, they tell you one thing out in the public and do something totally different on the floor of Parliament. And that's what I'm up against within all this rubbish of gender dysphoria, the mutilation of the children. That's another thing that's happening. Guess what? 3 times I'm taking it back to Parliament for the 3rd time to get a Senate inquiry so parents can have the right to explain to what has happened to them and their children in having this gender dysphoria, this mutilation of the kids with sex hormones. And so far, the last 2, the Libs and the Nats, voted against it or abstained from voting, so it never got up. So this is what is happening in your parliament by these so-called representatives, and yet they want the voice to Parliament, but they won't give the people a voice on gender dysphoria, sex cross hormones, and this treatment that our kids have been forced upon. And the rubbish now that is going down about the whether you're a girl or a boy and what's being taught in our schools. The country's gone to rack and ruin. And I'm the older generation, as many of the older generation will know. You wonder what the hell's happening in this country. And why aren't we standing up more? Why aren't we, as parents or grandparents, going and having our voice heard? Why aren't we standing up against this? Tell the politicians what you think. Let it known, because they're dead scared of losing their seats. Half of them shouldn't be there. They're brain dead. I'm telling you. They have no... It's all about their jobs, and they're following the party line. And this is where you have to make your voice known. And that's what please, if I can tell you anything, take an interest in the politics and what's going on, and don't stand back and say, oh, well, I can't do anything. I'm sick of these people saying I can't do anything. I'll tell you one thing. When I stood up to the Liberal Party and they wanted me to apologise, they said, go to hell, I'm not apologising. I've got nothing to apologise for. And that's when they threw me out. And I went down and I saw my father. And he said to me, why did you open your mouth? He said, you never change anything. And I looked at him and I said, You know what, Dad? It's people like you and your attitude. That's why nothing will ever change. I said, I don't know if I ever will be able to change anything. I said, but I won't know unless I have a go. Guess what, Dad? I'm having a go. So he ended up being my biggest supporter. And, you know, it's like when I was a single mother with a couple of kids, still 3 kids at home, and I wasn't going to go on to any welfare social security payment. So anyway, I borrowed everything. I bought my fish and chip shop, and he said, oh, you can't do that. Too hard for you. A single woman with 3 kids. Dad, I'm buying it. Well, it ended up, gee, how much fish did you sell this week? How many chips did you sell? Do you go to the markets? Because I grew up in a shop with my father, running it, working 106 hours a week for 25 years. So it was like then, you know, my dad thought I couldn't do it in my fish and chip shop. Dad didn't think I could do it with politics. He said it's a dirty game. I didn't really understand what he meant at that time about a dirty game. I do now. But the fact is that it's because of my passion for my country, my passion and determination that I know what this country was like when I grew up here. I know what it's like to actually, you know, be able to have the ability to go on to get, you know, get that job, to have a decent way of life, to have compassion for other people. You do it tough, yeah, we did it tough. But you guys are doing it tough today too. I know that. I hear it from people. I saw a couple of people today in your own streets here in the city, living on the streets. I see it all the time in Canberra. My heart goes out to those people living in their cars. You know, kids living in tents. And yet when Albanese, I hear these other politicians, I thought, where the hell are you? Don't you see what's going on? You're spending $340 million to have a referendum that we don't need because you're dividing Australians. We don't have the services, we don't have the hospitals or schools. We want to put on more public servants, more politicians. For what? We don't need it. We just want some true leadership to understand what the people are going through. But no, let's bring in another, 7,000 migrants a week. Let's just flood the country more. No housing, no services. And this is where they're failing us as a nation because they think they know better. Because we sit back. No, I'm going to take myself out of this equation. I don't sit back. I actually have my say. But I want you, the people, to have your say. I want you to stand up as proud Australians and say, we've had enough. You are not going to keep doing this to us. You're not going to keep doing it to our future generations, to my children, to my grandchildren. This is a country we should be proud of. But if we keep going the way we're going, we're ending up a third world nation with third world conditions, and we will have China on our bloody doorstep if we don't watch where we're going. So, if I can tell you anything, please do not vote for The Voice. Do not support this divisive piece of legislation or this referendum. I don't believe they will get it up because I've spoken to a lot of people and they can see the damage it will do. They need 4 states and the majority of the vote for it to get up. Queensland won't vote for it. I don't believe Western Australia will vote for it, especially now when you've got a taste of this cultural act. And I don't believe that New South Wales will vote for it either, and South Australia. I don't think they'll get up in those states. And Australians are waking up to this. So if you're speaking to your friends or neighbours or families, please ask them why. I don't want to hear an emotional thing, oh, well, this is Aboriginal land, we've got to, play the emotion part. No, we don't. We don't. They don't own this land any more or any right to it any more than any one of us in this room. And we all have that right to have that say in any legislation before that Parliament. And what it will do is open up the floodgates that if they're not listened to or consulted on legislation, that then can be taken to the High Court. You know, there are constitutional lawyers from both sides who are arguing that point. And you can't, under the Constitution, if it's in the Constitution that you've given them that right, they can then question that and it will be a challenge on. So who pays for that? You, the taxpayer. So it's going to be an endless money just flying out the door, which should be used for services. Do not give them the right to divide this nation. You've heard what Thomas Mayo has to say. You've heard what the others say. There is no clear, legitimate reason that I've heard come out of Albanese's mouth to say what is a good reason to vote yes for the Voice. Not one. Yet you will hear a lot of reasons why we shouldn't vote for it, because it's divisive, it is racist in itself, and it's dividing us as a nation. So please think clearly about it so that you understand what it means to you. I think have I convinced you at all? You've oh, it's a definite no. That's good. I've done my job. I'm happy with that. So coming over here, no, I've just, look, I always have been, you know, what you see with me is what you get. I'm not this, you know, eloquent, university-educated career politician. I got into politics only by accident, I can assure you. And when I went on council in 1994 it was, and I saw the corruption that was happening at that level, I actually started questioning it and pulling up the mayor, to the point even the managers were coming to me to attend meetings so that I can be informed of what the hell was happening. And that's when I thought, I'm going to keep involved in politics, and it's when I stood for the federal, never thought I'd win the seat. But I was fortunate to have no doubt. I'm probably one of the luckiest women in this country to hold the position as Senator. I may be voted by the people of Queensland, but I can assure you I'm a representative for the people of this nation. And it is an absolute honour and a privilege. It has its moments, I can assure you. I'm going to tell you one time in 2003 when I ended up behind bars because of my determination and what I wanted to do. But they thought they were going to get rid of me. They got a hell of a shock. And so anyway, I'm still here. I don't, I don't play that. I'm not the victim type. Never have been, and I don't intend to be. But just to say that, when I came out, they said, are you going to go for politics again? I said, I'd have rocks in my head. Well, I'm here. But anyway, I don't regret it. It's very important to me, and I think these times that we're going through at the moment, it's very important to hear both sides with honesty and integrity, and that's what the people want. Not these two-faced politicians that will tell you something and do totally different behind our backs, because it affects me as well. And that's why I've always maintained that you ask me a question, I'll give you the truth. If I don't know, I'll tell you that. Or I'll ask, please explain, which I hope you will do as well. Never forget, you have the right and the ability to say, please explain. Thank you.
We might do a little Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, if something wasn't answered and you'd like to ask it, put your hand up, we'll try and get around. Keeping in mind that fish and chips are at 7:30 and there's nothing worse than cold soggy fish and chips, right, Pauline?
Oh, right.
So we've got about 15 minutes. We'll try and do as many as we can, and then we'll also have an opportunity for you to sort of get photos afterwards as well. what I would ask is for questions, not statements. And I'll come around. We'll start with this gentleman here. Name and question.
Yep, Dutchy Holland. Pauline, I've actually got two questions. Here in WA, over the last couple of years, my wife and I woke up, we thought this, all this COVID stuff isn't going right. And when we tried to push back, they put forces against us. Police, there were people locked up, there were things that occurred. How do we fight against that thing, right, in our state? And the second question is,
Yep.
what do you do to relax, mate?
I have a couple of G&Ts. And I love my knitting, my gardening, my reading, so I have all that, yes. So anyway, look, to answer your first question about the COVID, it was the fear-mongering that went with it. And of course, people thought, you get COVID, you're actually going to drop dead, so you better go and have this vaccination. Right from the very start, it didn't make sense to me to put in a vaccination or a jab into your body that was untried, unproven. And I always said, I'm not putting that shit into my body. And I'm so pleased I didn't. They shut me down on radio. I'll just quickly tell you, so I was on Kyle and Jackie O in New South Wales, and I was in the studio. Anyway, when I made some comment and I said that, it was beeped out. And James was listening to the radio station outside, and he said, text Kyle, and he said, why are you beeping her out? And Kyle had no idea. So Kyle said to him, he said, why the hell are you beeping her out? She's a senator. She has a right to have a say. But all the media outlets, as Sky, were terrified of what we would say. So therefore, they were actually frightened of getting the licence pulled from them, of having guests on board on their programs making these comments about it. Doctors weren't listened to. Doctors were terrified. They couldn't say anything because they'd lose their licences, which some of them did. And in Rockhampton, they'd rather go without a doctor in the hospital, had no doctor in the hospital in Rockhampton Hospital, because he wouldn't get vaxxed. So he wasn't allowed in there. And that's why you've seen so many health professionals, nurses, doctors, paramedics, everyone lose their jobs because they haven't been vaccinated. And that was taking away people's rights. And that's another thing I did. I put up a bill on the floor of Parliament to state that companies and organisations cannot discriminate against anyone if they haven't been vaccinated. And yet they didn't vote for that either. That was voted down. That's another thing. It's a person's right to decide what goes into their body. And when you still have firefighters in New South Wales and Victoria, 250 in total, who still haven't been vaccinated, still can't work. They can't even assist in dire circumstances or work with SES because they haven't been vaccinated. So and yet their colleagues, the last time they had the vaccination in New South Wales was December 21, and in Victoria it was in 2022. So more than a year ago, they still can't get their jobs back. This is what you're up against. It's about the mindset of our politicians and our governments to control the people of what they want them to do. And that's what you have to get over. You've got to research, you have to understand, and you have to, really understand what the governments and the politicians are trying to do. And if you're going to not judge and question it, you're just as bad. You really are. You're as bad.
All right, we've got another question here.
Yeah. I'm Kevin, and I just want to ask something about the... So if the voice was enshrined in the Constitution, you said that it would be impossible to get rid of it. In terms of the operation of the Constitution, why would it be impossible, or would it rather be very difficult to get rid of it?
It can't. It can only get... you can only get rid of it with another referendum. And to get rid of it in another referendum, it has to go past by the Parliament, of all those in the Parliament. Do you think they're going to do you think they're going to vote for it? No, they won't. So they won't vote to actually give the people an opportunity to vote it out, to get rid of it. And that's what Helen Polly from Tasmania, she said on the floor of Parliament a speech, we need to enshrine it in the Constitution so they cannot get rid of it. It's dangerous.
Okay, I'll get you to hang on. No one can hear, and when we don't have a microphone, so I'll get you to stand.
Yeah. But hypothetically, if you did, by any stroke of luck, have a parliament which serves for the people, they can get rid of it with another referendum.
It has to be passed by the parliament
Yeah.
first to actually then put it back to the people again for a referendum to withdraw it. But that's
Right, thank
highly
you.
unlikely.
All right, next question. Stand up for me if you don't mind.
G'day, Alan here. Just a quick one. I've contacted over the last couple of years Ken Wyatt, what's the new girl? Tanya Lawrence, Michelle Roberts. Emails, phone calls. What do we do to get this through to their heads about things like global pandemic treaties, everything, new cultural heritage act, his voice? What do we do? What can we do?
You speak to your local members of parliament, you make it quite clear to them that you're not happy with this, that you will not be voting for them if they keep heading down this path. You have to understand how they vote on the floor of parliament, right? So then you follow how they vote on these issues. So you follow how they vote. That's what it comes down to, how they vote on the floor of parliament on these issues. Yeah. Yeah. Look, I hear it all the time. People contact me from all around Australia, and I just have to deal with my constituents in my own state, really. And I hear from people all the time, and I say to them, look, go and contact your own member of parliament. We do, but they never respond to us. They don't do anything. I hear that all the time from people. You know, occasionally I will do some work outside for people to try and help them with issues, which I've been able to do, but it's awfully hard. You know, you've got, like I said, a lot of them are brain dead. And the fact is they are lazy, they don't know. When the bells ring, they come into the parliament, they don't even know what they're voting on because they follow the whip. The whip is the leader of the chamber that controls the voting pattern, right? So whichever side of parliament they're sitting on, their party, that's where they sit. I've sat beside ministers and I want to clarify a point, you know, about something. I said, oh, we don't even know what we're voting on. Even ministers. Honestly, this is what it is. Unless they follow it, it's a decision by the party. Backbenchers don't understand it. You see, the difference between us, the minor political parties, is that we have to be across the legislation because our vote can make the difference of whether it gets passed or not. And that was the case in the last government, that the Morrison government could not get anything passed without One Nation's vote. Most of the time, if they didn't get Labor to support them. That's why I had to be across the legislation. And, you know, a few things, no, I didn't support them. I didn't support them on the corporate tax cuts because it wasn't fair. As I said to them at the time, if you want to lose $65 billion in taxes, then you put it into infrastructure programs. And I said, not only that, if the country actually ended up under Labor or we had a dire problem in Australia, I said we'd be in financial stress. And guess what happened? COVID, and we got Labor, both. So I was right. But I supported the personal tax cuts because Australians have to have relief from the high taxes that we pay in this country.
And we supported the corporate up to 50 mil, wasn't it?
Sorry?
Up to 50 mil, wasn't it? We supported up to for the corporates.
Yes, yeah, we did. We changed it from 10 and we supported it up to 50 million. And because the government just wanted to put it up to about 20, and I said, why put it up to 20? Take it up to 50, that's fair enough. And they were shocked that they'd had my support, but common sense told me, if you're going to do it, and corporates to give them a bit of lift up as well, Australian businesses, my argument is about the foreign investors in Australia, the foreign companies that don't pay their taxes here. And that's been my biggest argument, which I was on to the Turnbull government, the Morrison government, about the gas off your Northwest Shelf here. Do you know that we export here about $78 billion worth of gas off the Northwest Shelf and we get about $300 million in taxes from it? Do you know that because of the deals that we've done with the PRRT, that we were getting nothing from it? So from my hounding them, we just made a profit of, they changed it so that up to 90% is they don't pay tax on it, they only pay tax on the other 10%. So in this last budget, they got $2.4 billion back. We export more gas in Australia, with the East Coast as well, around about 93 billion a year in gas, we export more than Qatar, and they actually make 26 billion a year from their gas exports. So who's the fools? And this has been our government, and this is what I've been harping at them about. And finally, we've got 2.4 billion, but we should be more than that. I haven't finished with that one yet.
We've got 5 minutes left of questions,
sorry,
so we'll rip
I
through
talked
these.
too
Alex
much.
is here.
Hi, Pauline. I'm just wondering, are there significant Indigenous groups opposed to this amendment, and why aren't we hearing more from them?
Well, the media won't want to talk to them. That'll be a start, all right? That's negative. The media don't want to talk to me either. Hi, whoever's here. Are they here? Yeah. Oh, there you are. Nice
That's
to see
Sky,
you.
by the way. Sky were the only
Oh,
ones that
Sky's
stuck
been-
around.
Sky's
All the others
fantastic.
left.
You got to tune into Sky. Hi, Paul Murray, Chris Kenny, great.
Yeah, quick one, Pauline.
Yeah.
Paul, if you got room for Jared Rennick on your ticket.
Yeah. Look, Jared didn't get pre-selection again. He is a very good politician by all means, but Jared hasn't even approached One Nation to actually stand for us. So.
Look at these well-connected people. Righto.
Yeah.
We've got a question down the front.
Yeah, hi, Jim or James. A couple of questions. One, you said about key points in the Constitution.
Yep.
Is there some that we could take home as like dot points to use, or like where it's going to affect? And also another one, more probably for Rod, about I've heard that Landgate, our Lands and Titles Office, is going digital in August, and the duplicate copies will go. And with what they've brought in, there is a possibility that that may have covenants over your land.
Well, if Rod doesn't know,
We can look into that.
I don't.
I think it's
and
worth
I
having a
don't
look
either.
into.
Look, under the Constitution, just to inform you, remember we had the 1967 referendum, and that was to actually. Oh, you're shaking your head. No, you're too young. Yeah, I think you might have still in nappies at that time. No, you probably weren't even born. 88 baby. Okay, I was right. No wonder you're shaking your head. In the 1967, it was bring the Aboriginals on board in the census, all right, to include them in the national vote. That was basically about the referendum. Did you know that Aboriginals had the vote in Australia? Well, before that, Aboriginals had the vote. Aboriginal women had the vote in South Australia in 1894. And when we had the Constitution, it was Alfred Deakin. He actually fought for women to vote in the federal Constitution. He said because they weren't going to include women to have the vote in our federal Constitution. He said, no, women already had the vote in South Australia, and we will not allow the passing of the new Federation Constitution unless they got the vote. So that's why. But Aboriginals did have the vote. Even in Western Australia, they had the vote. It was land title holders that could vote for it. So when they brought in the census, they had a census in the state. They had a state census, but they didn't have a national census where they were included in it. So under the Constitution, Section 51(26) of the Constitution before the referendum read that the Commonwealth can make specific laws for any race other than the Aboriginal people, other than the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. That was not discriminating against the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. The reason why the forefathers wrote that up in the Constitution was to give them special laws to make against the Afghans and Chinese that were coming out to Australia because they were brought out as workers in the gold fields, and also for the drugs that was here in Australia at that time. Opium was quite big, so they wanted to be able to make special laws with regards to that because we had immigration laws, but these were the special laws. So in the referendum of 67, they took out other than the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So if you go to your Constitution now, Section 51(26) of the Australian Constitution reads that they can make special laws for any race. You see now, Albanese can make those laws that he wants to. He can do a voice now, but he knows that any future governments can change that legislation. That's why he wants to enshrine it in a complete new Act 129 in the Constitution to put it there in so it can't be changed. Right? So there's a lot to this that he's not telling people. And what they're also working on, which I believe is what they want to do, is increase the number of senators purely for the Aboriginal people. And so Labor is now having an inquiry into increasing more lower house members of parliament and also senators. They want to increase it in every state by 2, so they want to make it 14 senators. Can you imagine Tasmania has 500,000 people and they've got 12 senators already? I like to know they're probably running into each other because there's nothing happening there, but because the state under the Constitution, they actually have to. I've got 300,000 constituents, whereas they've got about 46,000 per senator, and it's just ridiculous. We've got too many senators, too many politicians. We don't need as many. You can reduce it because it's just a numbers game on the floor of Parliament, but this is all to their benefit.
All
and
right.
that's what I think. They'll want to increase and have Aboriginal senators only for those positions, and I believe that eventually in time, this is my estimation, they will want to carve off possibly the Northern Territory and make it into an Aboriginal black state. Now, they can do that under the Constitution, but if they were to take off any part of Western Australia, Queensland or South Australia, it would have to go to a referendum for the people to agree with it. But if you leave the borders as is, it doesn't have to go to and have been passed by Parliament.
All right, last question, because
Right,
I
right,
promised
sorry.
Ivan you're doing an interview with him at 7:30. So we'll make this one the last one.
Hi, Pauline. My question is, what piece of advice would you give to a 30-year-old woman going into politics?
Right. Go. Sorry? Honey, as I said to anyone, regardless of whether you're female or male, it's the best person for the job. You must be based on merit. I don't believe in this, and I will not do in my party, is to say I'm going to have an allocation of so many women for that job or so many men. It's got to be the best person for the job, and I stand by that. Now, you are. Thank you. No, get rid of that attitude, sorry. Get rid of the attitude, it's not male-dominated whatsoever. You know, you either be, if the kitchen gets too hot for you, then get the hell out of it. Politics is not easy. My father said it's a dirty game. It's like anything that you go into. If you've got the passion and determination, you can stand up to them and you can do it. Right, so you can do it. You know, as I say to people, I tell the young ones, put yourself up on a platform. Put yourself up here as a statue. Everyone wants to knock you down and have a go at you. But you know what? It's about what's in here. What do you think about yourself? Whether you can do the job or not. And stand your ground. That's what I'll tell you, as I did. If anyone really got it, tough in that first year as the first independent woman on the floor of Parliament, federal Parliament, and since it was a baptism, I tell you, by fire. But anyway, I've stood my ground. I've lasted the distance because I'm truthful to myself. Always be truthful to yourself and be there for the right reasons. It's not about the job. It's not about the pay. It's about the people.
All right, on that note, I know that there are plenty more questions that people have got. What we'll do, we'll give Pauline a 5-minute break because I know that she'll love a beer at this time and fish and chips. So we're going to start bringing the fish and chips out. We'll let her duck out and do that interview, and then we'll come and just mingle amongst the crowd, okay? So you'll be able to more than likely do a one-on-one with her later anyway. All right, thanks, and I'll hand over to Shung.
Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy your fish and chips.
Thanks so much, Pauline. Have a little break. Okay, Topolini's will bring you the fish and chips, so you don't have to do anything. It's coming to you. And they have over 200 meals. Everyone's going to get a meal, okay, before you leave today, so you don't have to worry. I'm going to tell you about 4 numbers. Reason why we're here if 100 of you, I mean, there's over 200 of you, but if only 100 of you were to speak to 100 people over the next 100 days, and those 100 people speak to another 100 people about the no case, that's 1 million people. And in Western Australia, there's only 1.9 million voters. So every one of you here can reach that 1 million goal. Okay, just tell everyone what you've heard tonight. Just to let you know as well, we've had to put on 4 extra security tonight. We had to pay for it ourselves because of the threats. And what a great job they've done. We've got plenty of merchandise. Those orange shirts that you're wearing. Some people ask me, why orange? And I say, well, when you go hunting wild animals, they actually get scared of you because they think you're fire. So buy a shirt and go hunting with it. Okay? And we've also got a raffle. Was it $3 for one or 2 for $5? Okay, so that will help us. So but the fourth number I'm going to talk to you about is we're going to do a little auction. Okay, so we've got some special items that you won't get anywhere else, but we're going to do a quick auction. All right, so you can see the stands. Pictures of Pauline. She's not here, but her stand is here, and on it I've got the guts to say what you're thinking. But we've got a special one, which says the truth matters. You won't see them anywhere but at the auctions or events like this. So that's the first item I'm going to try to auction. And you just have a show of hands, and we'll come to you. We can take cash. We can take FPOS. Tyler's got the FPOS over there. So just one standee tonight. Sometimes we sell more, but tonight just the one. Anyone got a starting bid? Starting bid, anyone? $20. The gentleman over there. Anything better on $20? 100. Wow, give a round of applause to the lady. $100. Anyone on more than $100 anywhere? 110 to the gentleman. 110 going once. Anything better? 110. 110 going twice. Sold to the gentleman. Lowen, can you get me the wine? The wine, I think. Sorry. What's your name?
Scott.
Scott.
Thank you very much. I've actually already got one, but I love you, Pauline.
Thank you so much, Scott. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much. And Pauline will, if you wait around, you get her to sign it too. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Just give me. Okay. Just give me. I'll start with one. Okay, I think we sold one of these at Topolini's back in November. So it's a red wine, Shiraz 2021, a wine that Pauline recommends because she drinks it. To Shiraz, rare earth, signed by Pauline. Can I have a starting bid? $100 for a lady. Do I have anything better than $100? No, okay, not for you. How much was that? 110. 110 going once. The gentleman third row from the back. Anything better than $110? Going twice. Anywhere, just getting, going. So, $110 to the gentleman at the back there. Yeah, just the one. Yeah. And that's the That's the... Okay. I'll just talk a bit about to put on a show like this takes quite a bit of effort, and I've got a team of very dedicated supporters who have been, sorry, was it? Yeah, well, probably best to ring the 1-300 One Nation number. I can get it to you because it's centrally looked after, the database. But I'll just introduce, to answer your question, I'll introduce some of the executives that we have, and that might help you as well. The young gentleman with the going around, he's Tyler Welsh. Not only, put your hand up, Tyler. Yeah. So he's not only the party secretary, he's the one that, if you got all the correspondence and looks after the Facebook page, he's also been instrumental in trying to swing the no vote to the younger people, the youth. So that's Tyler. He's also looking after, we have, if you like, a couple of divisions, right? We've got North Metro, South Metro, East Metro, for all intents and purpose. Tyler is acting for the North Metro region. I just saw Sheila Mundy, who was here as well. She was the previous RCC for the North Metro, who's gracing our presence tonight. Thank you for coming, Sheila. And her husband, Jerry. Yeah, so anyone who lives in North Metro, and if you want to come to meetings, give Tyler your details, because he's acting in that capacity amongst the many other things that he's doing. Who else have we got here? Phil Scott here? Yeah, okay. So the gentleman at my left at the back in the blue shirt, his name is Phil Scott. He looks after South Metro. So anyone south of the river, including myself, Phil Scott is his name. And he's also on the executive. That brings me to East Metro. So I've done North, I've done South. There's no West because that's the ocean or Rottnest. But East Metro, the guy standing up in an orange shirt because he goes hunting is Paul Howard. Anyone living on the east side, Paul, he also wears two other hats. Hat number 2 is the treasurer. So any bills that need to be paid, he looks after that. The third hat that he wears, you would see him at all the protests because he's the leader of when we did the libraries, right? So no drag time the libraries. Paul was looking after that. When we did the Let Women Speak, Paul was looking after that. So we've been very active at a lot of these rallies, supporting Women Speak and saying no trends to story time. Who else do I have? If you walked in today and at the desk you saw a lady, her name is Loanne. She's been looking after the merchandise, and husband Travis, also an executive. So they've also been instrumental in organizing tonight. James mentioned earlier about the venue. The venue have been really accommodating. Where's Mac? Is Mac there? Yeah, Mac, come here, Mac. Come on, Mac. Mac is the manager of this venue, ladies and gentlemen. Put your hand up. Put your hand up. We've been. I think I came here about 3 months ago to do a due diligence. We saw it. We went, wow, and all these partitions that is put up. It was for privacy, so the protesters don't have the joy of looking inside. So this is the work that Mac and his team did. So thank you so much, Mac. And thank you for accommodating us. And everything that got a bit challenging with the protesters, we managed to solve it, and we didn't get cancelled. So we're very happy to have done this event without getting cancelled. Why not? Later. Okay. Media. We thank Sky News for doing the distance. We also thank Freedom Media, Lindsay, Dwayne. Where's Lindsay? You want to say something? He and his team were here at 2 p.m. today, setting up camera there, right? So, and a new station that is put together to have a live feed. Now, whenever events come to Perth, and they don't use someone from I get very disappointed. So we're so glad that Lindsay and his team did our live feed today. And we hope you build lots of followers and you care about. We also have a radio here today, WA Radio Network. Reese here today. Reese, are you here? Oh, sorry, he's probably on the radio. He's doing a radio program, and he had a feed into us today. Have I missed any other media that are doing feeds? Anyway, that's and yeah. So I think, have I missed anyone else? Say again. We're looking for one. Would you like? I'll talk to you later. Maybe you can be our rep. Sorry, what was that? Oh, you do it too. Okay, and you do it. Oh, wow. Wow, I've got 3, 4. I wanted him to come and have a talk. I think it's called the WA Radio Network, it's called. Do you know the number? It's online. It's not a number thing. You got to Google WA Radio Network, and it comes up, I think. Yeah. Is that right? Okay, yeah. Anyway, Pauline is doing an interview at the back, but as soon as she finishes that interview, she'll be coming out, take pictures, share this event, spread the message of no. Speak to 100 people over the next 100 days, and they speak to 100 people, and we've got 1 million people covered. Lady, yes. No, long gone. Yeah. Huh? They... no, the reason why they hung around was because they didn't know Pauline was in here. They were still thinking that she was going to arrive, and oh yeah, you'll be very safe. They're all gone, and you notice we were dragging out the beginning bit because as soon as we stayed, the media, mainstream media stayed as long as the protesters were here. The moment Pauline got up to speak, the protesters left. Because she's here. So that answers your question. The moment she left, the moment she spoke, they left. Like that, out of here. Yeah. So, Adria, if you've got any other questions like that, I'm happy to answer them one-on-one. Has everyone got their meal yet? Hands up if you haven't got your meals. Okay, just that middle section. And myself, all right. So, thank you again for coming. We appreciate all your support. We appreciate Pauline coming, but do stay, mingle, talk to executive, sign up to one of the RCCs, or start a new RCC. We can do that as well. Okay? Thank you very much. The T-shirts. Yeah, I already mentioned that. T-shirts going for $20. If you can, if you don't have to take them to hunting, you can do other things with them. But if you want to get one of those shirts, they cost $20. We don't want to take them home with us, so buy as many as you can. All right, I'll pause it here. Time to have a drink, so enjoy the rest of the night. Hands up those that haven't got the food yet. Okay, those. So Paul and we'll find out. Yeah, there's plenty of food. Jody went to the fish market today. She's got 200 odd fishes, so it's all there. I saw her logging them in today. There's plenty.
audio. And we've got audio coming through here. Okay, so those that are still watching the live stream, so I'm just going to see if I can find out if Pauline Hanson will be doing more on the stage. But I think on that note, we might wind the stream down. I'm just going to jump. I can see.
Where's James? How's James? Have you booked it for James?
No, I didn't even know you did.
Yeah,
Okay, so I've just spoken to James, who has said I can just grab a quick chat with Pauline, which I intend to do. So just stand by, just bear with us. I'm just going to make sure that audio is all good. I think that probably maybe needs to be about where it needs to be. Okay, yep. Make sure that we do have good audio there. Thank you to those that have been watching the stream and the comments coming through. We've been seeing those behind the scenes. I'm just going to duck in back to the control desk. Probably going to cut back to that one. And then just come in. There we go. So we have a little bit now. So yeah, so whilst they are doing the rest of the fish and chips, Pauline is going to be coming out, mingling with the crowd. But I have asked for 5 minutes with Pauline Hanson and just for her to talk to those on the live stream. Obviously, I will be telling her the comments that come through. But I think, yeah, it's a good opportunity for Pauline Hanson herself to acknowledge that those that would have liked to have been here didn't know that this event was on tonight. Perhaps were a little bit worried about the lunatic left trying to come in. But yeah, she wants to just acknowledge those. So just bear with me whilst I run around and just, she's finishing there behind here. There's another room and she's just finishing an interview there. As you've heard, Sky News have been here for most of the day, so she's just doing a chat with them, but I will grab her for 5 minutes. So I'm just going to duck off. I will just keep a little bit of commentary going until I can grab her. So just back behind the control desk now. There's not much happening in terms of what you can see around the room. Leslie, not so much limping. It's been a big, big day to try and get all of the gear here. And yeah, it's up and down the stairs. I think I've done, I'm not really sure, but I've done probably 50, 60 trips up and down 2 flights of stairs to get everything all set up. Of course, and then I had some of the team that were here in the afternoon and some that arrived. You have, of course, arrived, I should say, Alexandra, who has produced the stream tonight. Clayton's just come over and joined us. That's his camera that you can see there, but he's just come to get his fish and chips and have some food. So thank you, Catherine. Too kind there. I can see the comments coming through. And I'm just keeping my eye off camera. Just as soon as I can see Pauline jump up, I'm just going to quickly grab her for 5 minutes and just get her to sign off. In particular, for all of those that have watched the live stream. And there's been a tremendous amount of comments coming forward. Always fantastic to see. And I guess that's one thing, that does make streams like this interactive, whether it be you're here in person or online. And then the conversations, as I quite often say, start after the stream finishes, and then people could still have the opportunity to share the stream because mainstream media, as I always say again, will not share information like this. We did see, hello, Pauline. If I may, can we just jump over to this camera just over here? And here we go. We're just going to walk over. Just got 5 minutes. Certainly a person in demand. So, Pauline, we are live streaming, and just a quick 5 minutes, if I may, just that there's been a tremendous amount of people that have been, so just in front of this camera here. So we are going back on the live stream. So, ladies and gentlemen watching the live stream, here we go. I think this is about the fourth or third time I've actually had the opportunity to speak to you.
Yes.
But in particular, Pauline, those at home that couldn't be here, there's been a tremendous amount of comments come through tonight. What can you say to them?
Thank you very much for tuning in. Sorry you couldn't make it here, but we've had a great turnout, and I'm so thrilled with people actually came through the protests. Only a handful of them, but you don't worry about that. Look, people want to know the truth, and they're hearing both sides of the argument. What do I say to you? Just have a good look at what the Prime Minister is saying. Has he really answered your questions? Has he convinced you this is going to be good for you and the country? I want you to get rid of the emotions out of it. It's not about the emotions, this land did originally belong to the Aboriginals. That may be the case, but the fact is that whether I was born here, I'm Indigenous to this land. So are people that have taken, who've changed their whole life, moved from their country, they've come here and have now become Australians. They have as much right to this land as any Aboriginal. And the fact is, this will be divisive. Future generations will be paying for it. We're going to be in the court system. You won't get legislation passed. It is nothing but a racist piece of legislation, and if you enshrine it in the Constitution, I warn you now, you will never, ever, ever be able to get rid of it, because the Parliament has passed legislation to put out to another referendum to get rid of it, and they never will.
Pauline, if I can ask perhaps one question, because I did ask for 5 minutes. Thank you. I know you have another press conference. And I do want to talk about the cost of the referendum, and you mentioned this tonight. And it's let's just say, let's settle on $500 million, or thereabouts, certainly north of 300 million.
Look, what I've heard is about 340, 360 million, but I notice in the budget that Albanese, I think, has squirreled away some other money into other departments, setting it all up. The whole thing, even in the budget, he's allowed $10 million for Aboriginal mental health, of how this whole referendum is going to stress Aboriginals out with regards to it. And yet they have taken away the ability for ordinary Australians to have, to go and see their doctors with regards to mental health issues from 20 visits a year to 10, yet they've given another 10 million to the Aboriginal industry. It's so wrong. People are being treated totally different based on their race.
And I think, and that leads to my question, and that is that there's a clearly identified gap, and this referendum is supposed to close the gap, or that's one of the catchphrases that they're saying. Surely 340 million, 360 million could actually do a significant difference now. without having a referendum?
Look, it's not about the money, I tell you. Over $30 billion goes into this for, the last census, 812,000 people, and I don't believe they're all Aboriginal at all. The fact is, it's not about the money, it's about the people who have been employed to do the job. The National Indigenous Australian Association, they have 1,317 people working there. What have they done at $4.3 billion a year? So what have they done? It's not about the money. It's about the people who have the knowledge and experience. I'm sick and tired of seeing the nepotism, putting jobs, people into jobs who don't have the knowledge and experience. And Linda Burney, she listed all the problems. She told us what the issues are, whether it's housing, education, health issues, what's going on. She knows the problems. Why do you need a voice to tell her what the problems are when she knows what the problems are? Get the right people. As far as I'm concerned, Linda Burney, Ken Wyatt, and even Scullion before that, absolutely useless as Aboriginal ministers and done absolutely nothing. Get rid of them and put someone in who's prepared to do the job.
I wish I could grab a comment from the live stream, but we're the other side of the room, so we can't see the monitors. But again, thank you very much for your time. Perhaps one last... The Constitution, the parameters of the Constitution stipulates that the government can't use the public purse to push this vote. What do you think of the Albanese government drawing in the corporate world? And so now, as a shareholder of a publicly listed company, you now have no choice what the CEOs are doing with your dividends, I guess, because they're pushing this Yes campaign.
That's right. It's absolutely wrong. When you have, Bunnings who's pushing this, and you've got other corporates, and you've got sporting bodies, as I tell people, keep the hell out of it. These corporations.
Absolutely.
This is not what your shareholders want. This is not what your customers want. Each and every one of the CEOs, as the general public, you have your say at the ballot box like every other Australian. Stop wasting your shareholders' dollars and pushing an ideology of what you think is right. It's, you should keep out of it, and all you're doing it is to actually win the support from the government and hoping you might get some money or some favours down the line. That's how I see it. And these sporting bodies, you know what I say? You probably want that money to expand on your stadium and more money to go from the federal government because you supported Albanese in his voice. There's more corruption in this that I'd say than worrying about anything else.
There we go. Senator Pauline Hanson, the One Nation leader. Welcome again to Perth. Thank you very much for your time. And there we go. How can you say no to fish and chips with Pauline Hanson? There we go. Hopefully on the live stream that you heard that Pauline's acknowledged those that have watched the stream. On that note, I am going to march to the other side of the room because we've got a lot of gear to pack down. But again, keep the comments coming. Share this stream, I guess. And they're just going to start the auction. I'm going to duck over there to bring the house audio back and switch off the live stream. So from myself, so we have Clayton behind the camera here. Dwayne was on the main camera. And also, I just want to say one thing. If there is an issue or if you have an opportunity, help what we do. Jump onto our page, buy us a coffee. We've had to buy a bit of gear here to do this. We're not getting paid to do this. We're bringing you this for free. And, anything that you can do, it'll get to a point. If we can't get some funds in, here we go. I've got to go back and get the mic back. So I'll talk as we go back over. Here we go.
All right, checking. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on. Oh, we got mics.
Is that C17?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
You're correct.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have drawn one apparently. All right, Shung, what was the number? 317. So the first one was green 017. So that was the lady over there. Are we drawing another one? What's the second?
That's it.
Well, I guess that's it. So if you guys want to get shirts or anything else over there, we need it. So yeah, sorry.